Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Of course, this being our Monday edition. And because it's Monday, we have the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service joining us in the form of the Public Information Officer, Inspector Michelle Lewis. Inspector, good morning.
Good morning, Kimberly. Good morning, team.
Good morning,
Welcome
Inspector.
Back.
Thank you. You miss me?
Well, no. But welcome back, Holly. Say.
Of Inspector.
Oh, yes,
I missed you, Inspector.
Sorry, I missed you.
It's fine. You see how the police just treat me?
But we missed the children being back out to school because they were on vacation for entire 2 months period.
2 months, yes.
So we're happy to see them. We're happy to see you as well. It's good to have you.
It's too late now. It's too late now, Inspector. If you have it on record already.
That's good.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
And
All right. Really
you
good.
did mention the children going back out to school, and I know that people want to talk about the safety as it relates to transportation, but can we start there first in terms of how we can keep our children safe now that they are back out to school, whether they have external modes of transport, whether they're walking to school, that sort of thing?
Yes, so we have 3 forms, as you mentioned. You have the pedestrian, because you have persons who walk. Parents will either take them or some other brother or somebody, or they'll do it for themselves. And then you have the private transport, where someone will hire either a vehicle or a bus, a car or bus to take their child to school. One of those, what we know as the bread van. And then, of course, parents would drop their child to school, pick them back up, or they would use public transport. So we first look at pedestrians. We first look at children who are walking to school every day, being back out to school now. Don't take it for granted that the child or children in the ward know how to go to school, how to cross the road, how to be alert on the road and that kind of thing. Take this opportunity this morning to remind them and to re-impress into them the importance of walking safely on the road. So, for example, you remind them, look to your east, to your west, as opposed to left and right, and look again before crossing across the street. Make sure that it is clear before you do so. When you are walking along the pavement, so you're encouraging them to walk on the pavement, walking either in single file or double file. Now, to some persons, this might seem as general information that they ought to know, but sometimes they forget, and some children do not know, because it was never taught to them as it probably was taught to you or when you were in school. So take the time to tell them how to be on the road, how to conduct themselves. If they have a cell phone, put it away while you're on the street walking until you get to the point that you have to do, if you have to call me to tell me that you reached safely. So in the first instance, you look at the pedestrians and the safety of pedestrians, being alert on the road when they're walking. So if they have their cell phone in their hand, they cannot be alert to what is happening around them. As far as possible, to walk against the traffic. Now, if the pavement is on that side of the road, then they walk on the pavement. But where it is, there's no pavement in the residential area that you're walking on, right? That you walk on the side where you are facing the traffic as a child, or as anyone as that, for that matter. We also look at persons who will hire private transportation to take their child or ward to or from school. So you have to, in the first instance, do some background check of the person that you're going to put your child or ward care into. So you check the background of the person to know where the person is living, ensure that that person has a driver's permit, a valid driver's permit. If the person is not the owner of the vehicle, who is the owner of the vehicle? Not always someone has a criminal record. A criminal record is only obtained when someone commits a criminal offense and we have the fingerprint impressions on the system. But we have persons in society who are bad people, who have no criminal record. So there is where talking to other people around the area will give you an idea of what type of person this is that is transporting children to school. Make sure that you are comfortable where that is concerned. Now, there's another aspect in relation to that. The vehicle can hold 4 passengers or 10 passengers, but the driver of the vehicle have 15 or 20 passengers in the vehicle or 8 passengers in the vehicle, what we know as overload. So you're paying for your child to have a seat in this vehicle, right? You're paying how much ever money they require of you. Ensure that your child is comfortable. So have the conversation with the driver that, listen, this is what you're paying for, and this is what you're expecting. Have the conversation with your child about, their child's comfort in the vehicle, whether the child is safe in the vehicle, whether the driver is having any conversation with the child in the vehicle, whether the conversation is child appropriate or if it's too invasive. Yeah. So you want to you as a parent or guardian, just have that kind of conversation with the child in a very relaxed environment. You're talking to your child and you just, don't make the child feel all frightened, but just have that conversation with the child.
Yeah. Inspector, what about, we talk about, you spoke about the conversations, but what about the music that's accompanying this trip as well? Because I know that there's the radio, for example, which is supposed to be, of course, clean music and clean conversation and all that good stuff. But what about when the driver is playing their own music and whatever influences that might have on the children? Should that be of concern to the parents?
That is also of concern, and like the point to raise as well, because you have in the private, for private transport, if it's a maxi, the maxi and drivers, they know how to conduct themselves, right? But whereas a private vehicle, sometimes they play all types of music with certain types of lyrics in it. It may not be obscene, but it might not be child-friendly, and the content that child is listening to is not good at all. So that's a very good point to raise with the driver as a parent or guardian of a child on board who's utilizing those services.
I want to go back a little bit to one of the things you mentioned, the overloading. As far as the TTPS is concerned, is that a chargeable offense?
It is. It's a ticketable offense.
A ticketable offense. Yes. So if it is that the drivers themselves have overloaded their vehicle with more children or more passengers in general, even if it's children.
Correct.
All right, I just wanted to make sure we're clear on that part. So the drivers also have to be aware that, what you're doing is illegal, so just don't do it.
So, for example, if you bought a maxi, red band, green band, whatever band, color maxi, the driver will tell you that the child has to sit on the seat and you have to pay for the child on that seat.
Right.
At a certain age. I think it's over the age of 3, I believe it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So, from preschool, whether the child is 3 years, 4 years, 8 years, that child is supposed to
occupy a seat,
occupy a seat.
Yeah.
So we know sometimes they do it, but it is wrong.
Yeah.
And it puts your child at risk because when the vehicle is insured for a certain amount of passengers and an accident happens, then that's a different thing right there, because the vehicle is holding more passengers than it is licensed for and it is insured for.
I think that's a good point, because I think not just for the drivers to know, but for the parents to know as well. Because I've seen some parents arguing with the drivers as to why their child has to occupy a separate seat. So I think, no, it's good. But I wanted to shift gears, Inspector, in terms of adults traveling. I know that we have the external driving services as well that we take from time to time. Can we speak about the safety when we take those type of modes of transport to get to where we're going?
So you have the maxi, the public transport, right? Whether it's PTSC or
maxis or H cars.
Oh, right, exactly. So as a parent, if you are, let me look at the child part. So you have children attending school. So parents ensure that the children have sufficient money to pay for the transport, as the case may be. You have adults who are traveling with children. Are you referring to, or just generally adults?
Adults. Well, we spoke about the children, so I wanted to switch gears a bit to the adults, especially as we're traveling, whether it be the daytime, the nighttime especially. I don't want to touch too much on the H and the P car, because I know that's an ongoing concern. But is it that we should also always try as best as possible to take the H cars because they are registered, as opposed to the P car? How we can ensure that we are safe if we're traveling during the nighttime, and also those external driving services that also apply or have their car for hire, how can we ensure that we're safe with them as well?
All right, so in the case of the P versus the H, there are some areas in Trinidad and Tobago where there are absolutely no H cars. And in those areas, sometimes you get persons who actually live in those areas who are providing the service. So it's supposed to be persons who you actually know. And generally, you're supposed to be able to tell if this is a stranger who has come into the area to provide that kind of service. So in the main, you use the hired vehicles, right? On the taxi stand, as the case may be, as opposed to off the taxi stand, as far as possible. As far as possible, you utilize the transportation that is provided in a legitimate way for you to travel with. So when you enter a vehicle, of course, you look around to see the type of persons in the vehicle. If you enter a vehicle and you see maybe a particular group of persons and you feel intimidated, we would advise you to leave the vehicle right away and board another vehicle, whether it's a bus, whether it's a taxi, whatever it is. If you see a certain type of person and you are uncomfortable, regardless, because female and male committing crime is all the same. We cannot say boys, male only, and girls only, and male only. So that in those cases, once you feel uncomfortable being in the vehicle, exit the vehicle. And as you talk about adults, we have children who are now adults going into tertiary level education, who are adults traveling as well. Yeah. The use of your cell phone is a big issue with adults and people generally when they are commuting. And not having that consciousness because you are so engrossed with your cell phone.
Or you have the headphones in.
Or you have your headphones, you listen to music or whatever, and you don't have that attention to give to observe persons and things that are happening around you. Yeah. Even when you are a driver, as a young driver or a driver generally, obey the traffic laws and the signs and the traffic signs, the traffic signals and all of that, the pedestrian crossings. We have more children who are on the street now because of school. So where you have a school and you're approaching a school, you drive with some level of safety, you slow down a bit, and you drive cautiously. Where you have the pedestrians crossing as well, you are alert for those things. So that we have less of RTAs happening, what we call road traffic accident, whether it involves a pedestrian or two vehicles, because you are also being a careful and a careful driver, or practicing as we know it to be safety as a defensive driver.
Defensive driving. Yes,
as
very
a defensive
important.
Driver. So you pay attention to those
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but before we wrap, I do want you to give the contact information. So if it is that you do see something on the road that you want to be able to report to the TTPS, tell us the numbers that we can use.
Right, so of course, your police station in every station, but of course, if you see something, you dial 999. 555-800 tips. 736 TTPS is still available, where if you have information in relation to a criminal offense or you want to share that confidentially, that number links you directly to the commissioner or the deputy commissioner.
Nice.
Right, but otherwise you can call 999-555. We want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. We see that you all are wearing the best colors in Trinidad and Tobago, representing the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Inspector, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and I do hope that you have a great and productive week.
Thank you very much.
And we will see you next week, God's willing. Inspector Michelle Lewis representing the TTPS, as they do every Monday, to give us some information that can keep you a little bit safer. We take a quick break and come back with more inside the Now Morning Show. Stick around.
Especially in tongue, love and